here today with my friend Abby. We're here on this little YouTube channel that is dedicated to talking to people who love trees and forests because they're the best people, because they're awesome. And this channel is about getting to know all these tree folks. And so super excited to talk to Abby today. Right now, Abby is working with the Pennsylvania DCNR Bureau of Forestry. She's chief of their planning section. But Abby has a lot of other cool things that we're going to be talking about and super excited to spend some time. And the first thing that I wanted to kind of explain is where we are right now. So maybe Abby, you can tell us where we are. It's a place that's special to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are currently sitting in the middle of what looks like a road. It's not. It's just a path around the backside of my family's farm. So a place that's near and dear to my heart where I grew up and spent time as a kid. Riding like side-by-sides and farm equipment back and forth with my cousins. Just being a kid. I like to always say that it was like the modern day Little House on the Prairie, very homestead-esque.
Nice.
But it was a really fun, way to grow up, to be here on the land and with my family. My grandparents had a farm that was in the family since the late 1800s.
Wow.
And they had 4 children. And when their children grew up, they decided that they wanted to sort of subdivide the farm and give the kids the chance to raise their families here too. So it went from 170-ish acres and was subdivided among the 4 kids. And one of those was my mom and her husband. And so I got to grow up on the farm. And the back side of the farm actually has woods throughout sort of like the back half of the property. And so when I was a kid, we would be back here playing, but I would also go for walks with my dad in the woods back here. We're actually sitting not far above right now. There's a little hollow down over the hill. And there was this really big beech tree down there, this like gigantic beech tree that did what beech trees do, where they have like gangly limbs that go everywhere and up into the sky. And somebody had carved like a weird symbol into it at one point. And so when I was little, my dad and I would walk through the woods when he started to try to like trust me to do it by myself. That would be our point of origin. And so we would say like, all right, I'm gonna go this way, you go that way, Ab, and we'll meet at the beech tree. And so yeah, there's a lot of just like learning and growing up that I did here, and really enjoying, like, falling in love with being outside here on the farm. And so it's a place that's near and dear to my heart, and I still call home today. And still, walk this trail, ride this trail, walk through the woods to the beech tree with my dad.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing like this place is maybe one of the things that inspired you to pursue forestry as a career?
Yeah, what's funny is I always joke that I kind of like bumbled my way into forestry unknowingly. So like I said, this was a farm on the front side of the property. Up ahead of us is where my grandparents had their farm, and I was involved in 4-H when I was a kid, and was like the county fair queen and showed dairy cows and sheep and did all of that. And so I was just in love with agriculture, and I had started in school with the idea of pursuing a career that would allow me to advocate on behalf of farmers. I really had enjoyed doing that in my time as fair queen, and my grandpa had lived that life, and his parents and theirs before. So I went to school majoring in ag science and trying to figure out what my minor would eventually be. And I always joke, they put me in a combine and they said, drive this thing. And I said, no, thank you. I think I need to. I realized like I love the culture behind, the farming lifestyle that I grew up with. But it wasn't something that I really like wanted to make my career. I like saw it sort of secondhand through my grandparents, but I wasn't like raised day in and day out milking cows or anything like that. And so I actually had ran into the Society of American Foresters table at a club fair on campus. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I thought, I didn't even know forestry was a career, but I was like immediately excited about it. And I ended up job shadowing 2 foresters that still work for the Bureau of Forestry in the DCNR now, and quickly realized, I'm like me, like it clicked. Like I grew up in the woods with my dad. I love being outside. I could make this my career. And so I shifted into forestry, and my sweet, precious father would walk with me here in the woods and in other places and let me just be a nerd with him, like pointing out what trees are what. And I like brought him along with my passion. And now he is actually, I was sharing with you earlier, he's doing things on his property to
Yeah.
conserve and steward it, like planting trees and doing his own like thinnings, which is exciting.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, so I kind of just like happened upon it accidentally, and it's been such a blessing to have had
Oh,
that
how
happen.
cool. I never heard that story. And I think it's kind of cool too, because when you and I met, it was basically an SAF, Society of American Foresters connection.
Yeah, it was very soon after I had made that transition. I
Huh.
think I had switched. I ended my spring semester in ag science, had a summer off, and then that fall came back. I had changed my major to forestry, was excited about being in SAF, and had the opportunity to go to convention, which is where I met you. And yeah, we've been friends, and you've been a mentor of mine ever since, which
Aw.
is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been awesome to get to know you more, and such a cool person. And kind of going on like the school theme, you did your grad work at Penn State as well. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about your work that you did there, because I really think that it's so important in, I guess, really not just forestry, but a lot of, I don't know, even in the world today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lessons in that for everyone. So can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would love to. This is a topic I could talk forever about. And I'll sort of start with like how I got there. I did an internship in the state of South Dakota. It was forest health related, but I did a lot of talking to landowners that were worried about their trees. And I was like, okay, so I know I want to talk to people. How do I make that, a part of my career path? And I ended up meeting my graduate advisor, Allison Muth at Penn State, and she had this opportunity to do a master's degree, sort of in an open-ended fashion. Like, let's just pursue something that's really of interest to you. And so I knew I wanted it to be people-related. Allison was the right person to be doing that with. But I interacted right at the beginning of my grad school process. I interacted with a couple that were learning about how to take care of their forest. And they were asking questions about understanding sort of the volume and the value of the timber on their property. And I had mentioned, well, this is a really great time for you to talk to a consulting forester. And they got really hesitant. And were like, I don't know. Like, I've heard things. And I thought, oh, you've heard things? Oh, what do you mean you've heard things? I mean, I identify as a forester in this way professionally. And so I'm like curious about why maybe they were a little hesitant. And just through a couple of other interactions, I came to like start to see this pattern of skepticism, was how I was reading it, among landowners as it related to professional foresters. And so I was curious about why, right? Like I'm trained as a professional forester. I think that we're doing the Lord's work out here,
Right.
Like I'm not sure why anybody would question us. And so Allison and I had lots of conversations about that, and we were both really inquisitive, and just started seeing some things that we thought, like, maybe we should ask the question about what actually leads to action for landowners when they interact with a professional forester. What is the things that have to line up? What's the equation that needs to happen for them to overcome some of that potential skepticism and like really do work with a professional? And so I had this really great opportunity to interview two sets of landowners, folks that were maybe a little bit more experienced and had, they all had worked with a professional private consulting forester. In Pennsylvania, as you know, folks don't have to have a license to be a professional forester. They can just exist as one. So there was a group of folks that were, had that experience before, maybe a little bit more informed as far as general like landowners go about what is involved in caring for forest land. And then folks that were newer to the discussion, people like my dad, who've maybe never thought about what it means to manage your forest land. And I just wanted to know about their experience with their forester. And so I just asked them to tell me the story of it. Tell me tell me what happened when you first talked to your forester, and how did it go? And they all told these really, really interesting stories that were like just rich with a lot of details from start to finish on their experience. And, going through all of that process with them, and then, doing all the researchy stuff where you compile the data and you look for themes among the interviews. The things that really rose to the top were how critically important interpersonal relationships and trust building are to these landowners. It matters so much. The way that I've kind of like boiled down some of it is that it matters so much that we as professional foresters show up as people first and foresters second. Folks that want to take care of their land feel this really, really deep personal connection to it. Like me, right? Like I just talked about the fact that I grew up here and I have all these memories with my dad and my cousins and my grandparents that you just got to meet. And this place means the world to me. And if somebody came in here and did something that I felt like maybe wasn't in the best interest of it, I would grieve that. It would make me very sad. And I think, a lot of people feel that way about their land. They have history on it. It's a place of stories. And so they're very careful when they make decisions about doing things that impact that land. And so they really wanted to understand that their professional was a good person, like shared similar values and similar character. And they would say things like, oh, I learned that my forester is a dad, and I'm a dad. And so I think we might be the same in some kind of way. Or, the one was a firefighter and had that really deep ethos that comes with being an emergency responder. And when he found out that his forester had that background too, it changed the equation on how willing he was to trust him, because it's sort of like, I know that he thinks like I do to some degree, and he must be like me, and I would never do anything to hurt this land. And so it really was rewarding to listen to stories and think about the fact that we learn a lot about science in school, right? Like the science of doing forestry, the silviculture of doing forestry, but we don't often talk about the importance of developing interpersonal relationships and being empathetic and kind,
Right.
and listening to people and trying to understand where they're coming from and building that trust that really takes time. And that was exactly what these folks were looking for, was just somebody to have a long-standing, deep interpersonal relationship that had nothing to do with them, that person being a forester, and everything to do with them being somebody that they could trust and relate to and believe was really going to take their interests to heart in the decisions they were making on their landscape, especially if they didn't know, right? It's hard. It's hard to evaluate, whether it's a good thing for somebody to be taking so many board feet off of your property, or doing a shelterwood versus a one stage versus a two stage shelterwood, if you don't know what those things are. But if you trust them as a person, you can say, okay, I know that they've got the expertise, but I'm only okay with that and letting them run with it because I know who they are as a person.
Right.
Forestry is social, was what I pretty much have learned through that whole process.
I so agree with that. I think too, that concept is just it's so important for our world today too, because there's so many things where, when people don't trust one another, or they don't have that interaction with one another, then it's easy to dismiss what they have to say, no matter what it's about. And so, I really like that piece of the relationship and connection, and how that can really make a difference in how people interact.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that concept of othering people. If you have a way to say that they're other than you in some kind of way, it's easy to write them off,
Right.
to disagree, to never find a space where you'd be even willing to have a civil conversation. But I approach the work from a space of thinking about how do you move beyond the other. And I had great mentors that helped me think through the real theoretical lens of that. But if you boil it down, I like to give a shape metaphor that I think is useful, not only in working with people in forestry, but like you're saying, just in how we interact with each other all of the time that gets us beyond that. So a lot of the work was rooted in identity, right? We all have this identity that we kind of show up to the table with, and that can change based on what we're doing. You know, if I'm coming to a professional setting, maybe I show up with my forester identity, and that's where I'm coming from. I show up as my forester identity, and I see myself, you know, one way in that identity. I know that my intentions are good. I know that I'm here to maybe help you as the landowner. And I'm going to do that with this science that I'm going to stand on really firmly. But say my forester identity, the shape is like a triangle. This is me as a forester. And you show up as somebody who is a daughter that has this asset for your parents that they have like spent so long taking care of it, and they've really built this legacy on the landscape. And you maybe, let's say for this metaphor, they're aging, and you want to take care of this asset for them. And so you show up as a daughter that feels very firmly about you know, carrying that legacy forward. And say your daughter identity is a circle. So I'm showing up as a triangle and you're showing up as a circle. And we're trying to have a conversation about what's best. Right? And I'm speaking to you from my identity as a forester that's full of science and expertise. But you're coming to me with a lot of like need, right? And heart in what you're doing. And perhaps then my science is not reaching you because we're talking two different languages at this point. And you see me as somebody different from you because I'm showing up potentially like laying down the law of my science. If we have a disagreement and what I'm saying to you is not making sense and what you're saying to me is not making sense to me and we can't overcome that, then we have to find, oh, I have an ant. We have to find a way to like get to a different shape that we both can see each other in, right? Because your what did I say you were? Circle does not match my triangle. And so we're never going to fit.
Right.
But if we can talk about something other than the subject at hand and find that we maybe both have a square somewhere in our deck of identities. Say I am, say that I'm a Christian and I have like a firm belief, a set of beliefs, right? About the way that people should behave and my faith and the things that are important to me. And I say, you know, I have the church chicken and waffle dinner this weekend. We were just talking to my grandma about her chicken and waffle dinner. And I tell you a little bit about the things that I'm doing there. And you say, oh, no way. We had a spaghetti dinner last weekend at my church. And here's what we're doing for the community. And then we can talk a little bit about our experiences that way and find that we actually have a lot more in common than our triangle and circle. We both are a square. So then maybe it's way easier for me to accept the things about your circle, even if I don't believe them. I might be willing to give you the benefit of the doubt because I know that we're both a square. So you have to find like that's a big long metaphor about shapes to say that I think it's really important to enter into discussions leaving our labels and our professional identities and just the really hard things that can create conflict kind of like out of the equation and just get to know people first. Be curious and ask questions and say like, hey, do you have kids or what are you doing this weekend? Did you take a vacation this year? What hobbies are you into now? Because that interest in people and the ability to like have a discovery conversation where you might find more in common, it makes it way easier to not be hateful and to not have conflict if we can see ourselves reflected in each other. And I think that applies, like you're saying, everywhere, not just in this work that we're doing, but if we live in a world that is constantly othering each other, I think a lot of us actually have way more in common than we think we do. And it's easier to humanize people and then give them empathy and kindness if we can find those commonalities. Not always. I mean, it's not a perfect solution. People are way more complicated than shapes. But making relationships that are positive is actually a lot simpler than I think we give credence to sometimes.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, and also like making allowance for people to be different. Where do you feel we could go if, you know, we all kind of tried to do this? Yeah, like where would that take the world, do you think? According
Oh,
to Abby, like,
oh my gosh, where would it take the world?
yeah.
Oh, into a much happier place, I think. Oh man, I think we would have less less conflict, and maybe not less conflict, but we would have more productive ways to navigate through things together. And I think that they would be a much more empathetic world if we could employ that in anything that we do, right? Like if we just could be curious about other people a little bit, enough
Right.
to just try to like, I always say like suspend your disbelief or take your ideas and put them in your pocket for a second. Just pretend they don't exist and be curious about each other.
I want to kind of like probe into a little bit about conflict in this context. I think a lot of people do view conflict as negative, but conflict is often how we discover another idea
Mm-hmm.
or another perspective on something. Sometimes it's hard to hear something that's a different opinion from, you know, the ones that we hold. What are some tips you might have for folks to hear an opinion that's different and then respond to it in a productive way?
Yeah, I love that question. I remember, so let me just caveat this by saying I am not great at conflict myself. I'm still somebody that wants to like make everybody happy. So I'm still learning. I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I'm definitely still learning how to do it too. When I was in grad school, a book that I read was called Healing the Heart of Democracy by Parker Palmer. It was a really cool book. And one of the things that stood out to me was this idea of like using conflict as an anchor, like literally grabbing onto it and examining it and being like, what is happening here right now? Instead of like trying so hard to be like, no, we should just move past this because clearly we're getting into a tense space. Just stay in it, be willing to be uncomfortable in it, and then be curious about it. So one thing I always think about with conflict, and when we get into spaces that start to feel like a little sticky with it, is to ask questions, and not necessarily like why questions, because sometimes people, if they say something and you're like, well, why? That can feel a little bit
Right,
like you're
right.
assuming that there's something wrong with what they're saying. But I think being willing to just dig in and better understand, like I said, what's behind it is a really key part of it, because then maybe there's actually something else in that opinion that isn't what they're saying. You can maybe hear something
Right.
differently in the context that gets you more of the meat of a problem or a conflict. And so I like to think about asking questions like, can you tell me more about how you got there? Or did you experience something that led you to this? Do you have beliefs behind that? Like, I really want to know more about how you arrived at this. Or what does it mean to you that this is so big? Like, I can feel that this is a big, important thing for you. Can you explain where that importance comes from? I think being willing to give people space to talk more about all of the stuff that's just behind any opinion or concern that they have gets you kind of to the heart at what the problem is. And again, maybe you find that you have some like similar thing there. Like maybe you both want the same thing. You're just coming at it from a very different angle. The other thing that I think about too is trying to view somebody from their whole person when they're saying something to you that's really hard that maybe you disagree with. I like to think about this in terms of like, there's a lot of like political ideology now that sort of drives the way that people engage with things and what they say. And so I think giving them the grace of like thinking about people as a whole person instead of like labeling them immediately based on an idea can also help to navigate that. I think not putting people in a box is a really important thing in today's world, remembering that they are whole people with all of these sets of experiences that drive them to where they're at. And also just like really not taking things personally, which is so hard to say. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like the queen of taking things personally. But I try to remind myself too that I need people to do the same thing for me, right? Like I need them to look at me as a whole person and give me grace as somebody that's growing. And so and then also to just have a lot of humility. Like there's a lot of ego in the world.
Right.
And I think part of living in a space where we are trying really hard to be empathetic with each other also means knowing when we mess up ourselves. And so, yeah, I think all of that combined is just you try to be really curious about people. Don't put them in a box. Ask them for more information, and then see if you can find a way to agree, or see that maybe you're not so different after all, and then you can cooperate towards a solution in the future. The other thing is just like I said, not being afraid of it. Conflict can actually, if we can be curious, can open us up to a lot of new things in our lives if we can just get through it.
All right, so now we will segue. You may have noticed we have like a small feast in front of us on this table here. But actually, these have tree and forest connections. So we're going to talk about this food, and then we are totally going to taste it and eat it, and it's going to be delicious.
Oh, I can't wait. So very tempted.
So, Abby, you want to start with the cookie that you made?
Yeah.
And tell us about that and what it has to do with the forest?
So this is a very thin and very unattractive looking cookie because
Looks good to me.
Thank you. I tried to tell myself, looks don't matter. It's going to taste amazing. These are, and this is a mouthful, they are brown butter bourbon barrel pumpkin spiced cookies.
Nice.
So they're essentially just a brown butter cookie, which is a really fun way to make a cookie if you've never done it. And what they have in them is pumpkin puree, but then the connection to forests is the bourbon barrel smoked pumpkin spice. So it is a mixture of all the spices that make like pumpkin pie amazing, but they were smoked in a smoker that used wood from bourbon barrels. And if you're familiar at all with bourbon, one of the key things that gives bourbon the flavor that it has is its aging process in a white oak barrel. When I first learned that, when I was young and first, started enjoying alcohol, I thought bourbon was disgusting. I was like, there's no way this tastes like paint thinner. It's gross. And then I went to Kentucky and I learned a lot about the actual process of making bourbon, and then that aging process in wood barrels being so important. And as somebody who loves trees that had maybe a little too much of the tasting, I was like, oh my gosh, it tastes like wood. This is what wood tastes like. That's so fun. And as I've grown, I've learned to really love bourbon, and then just the process of distilling it, and that important connection to white oak barrels and giving it that flavor. So if you like bourbon, then you love trees.
Yep. Very true. And these smell amazing.
Should
This smells. Let's try it.
Okay.
I totally need to try this.
They're so soft.
Oh my goodness. So good.
Yeah, they're soft and salty. Can you taste the smokiness in it at all?
That is amazing.
Maybe needs like a shot of wild turkey with it, but
Yeah, that's the part we're missing.
yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like them. They're my favorite fall recipe.
It's perfect too. Look,
Yeah.
perfect.
It's a great atmosphere to be eating
It
a
is.
pumpkin spice cookie in the woods.
All right, so I'll tell you about.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a pawpaw cheesecake. And so for those of you who don't know, pawpaw is kind of like a smaller sized tree that we have kind of in the, well, it's not just in the Northeast, it does grow in the Southeast as well. And it's one of the few fruits that's actually like tree fruits that's native to the United States. So it's a very interesting fruit. It it has like you kind of need to grab it like just as it's fallen on the ground. That's when it's like really ripe, and you pick it out, and it does not last long, so you have to process it pretty quickly. It's got I don't know, I'll probably show a picture here, but it's got like a little seeds that are in it. It has sort of a custardy texture, and maybe like a almost tropical sort of a flavor. So maybe like a banana-y. Some people say like banana mango, kind of a cross. But this is a cheesecake recipe that I totally stole from a place called Tyrant Farms on the internet. So I'll put the link to that below. But it's like a no-bake recipe. Some people say that to cook pawpaw causes some people gastric issues. So this is actually a raw recipe. So anyway, that's about pawpaw, and so we'll have a taste.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. It looks so good. And it has like a, what would you call this on top
So
of it?
it's like a glaze that goes on top. So in this recipe, there's, well, obviously a lot of pawpaw, and then there's the dairy portions, the cream cheese, and heavy whipping cream. Yeah. And then there's a little bit of sugar and some gelatin. And then the glaze is just pawpaw and gelatin. So that's what's on top.
It's beautiful. That is like tropical.
It is.
It feels like I should be on a beach.
Yeah, it's quite tropical. Yeah, it has like almost a, I don't know, that kind of like wah to it, you know?
It's exactly, it's like a kind of thing to it. I have to have another bite. Some with the crust.
Yeah, and it's pretty creamy. It's good.
That's delicious. Oh my gosh, Rachel. And these are pawpaws that you got in Pennsylvania?
These are pawpaws. They are collected from my friend Mark's yard. So he has like his grove of pawpaws, and he'll be in another interview, so you'll be able to check him out at some point. But he has these pawpaws, and he has some other fruit trees that he's growing in his yard too. He's kind of like, I guess you could sort of call it permaculture going on in his yard. It's very cool. And yeah, that's where I got them, and it was a lot of pawpaws. I think I got 25, probably 25 pounds
Holy
of pawpaws. Now, in this, well, once you process them, you know, they're losing some of their weight, but and by processing, that's just like, you know, getting the pulp out and separating the seeds out and kind of getting it all the pulp in one spot. And I think I have enough for another like recipe and a half maybe or something and this made like 2 of this size pie shells. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was very delicious. I think if you make it in a traditional cheesecake pan, it would make one much thicker one.
That makes sense.
I cheated on this and used like the crust is not homemade on this one. But
it's delicious.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that with me.
And thank you so much for taking time to do this interview. And people that do interviews with me get this very exclusive sticker, the Tree Traveler Mutual Admiration Society.
Oh, yay.
So welcome.
Thank you. There's no other society I'd want to be in. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Oh, thank you. It was so much fun. And just want to remind everybody, I hope you enjoyed chatting with Abby today. And if you have comments or things that you want to say, you can feel free to add those below. Also, like if you like this, hopefully you do, and want to subscribe, that would be great. You can think about doing that. And then also, if you want to support this channel on Patreon, that would be great as well. If this channel does make any money, my charitable partner is the James C. Finley Center for Private Forests. So anything you're supporting this channel will also support the Finley Center, which Abby's also connected with. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.